All right. Good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to Heartland AEA. We're excited to have so many enthusiastic educators here this morning. It's great to have a full room for this. We have a great lineup of presenters of teachers here ready to share with you their learning and share the great things they've been doing in the classroom. So we're hopeful that this will be a great day of learning and collaborating for you as we get going. So without any further ado, we'll get started this morning. Our first presenters are Emily Lewis and Brooke Von Stein from West Des Moines Community School District. Please give them a warm welcome as they get started.
All right, good morning, y'all. How you doing? Okay, I am Emily Lewis. I teach 3rd grade at Crestview School of Inquiry right down 86th Street.
I'm Brooke Von Stein. I also teach 3rd grade.
We will take questions anytime, so if you have a question, just shoot your hand up and we'll get to you.
Or shout it out too.
Yes, or tweet us. Tweet us is way better than email. Okay, so we come from Crestview School of Inquiry. It's kind of a hidden gem in West Des Moines. We are a very diverse school. Our students represent 30 different countries with 25 different languages. We range from about 80 to 90% free and reduced lunch, and a lot of our families are newcomers. So we have a lot of needs that need to be met, and because of our needs and our test scores, we ended up becoming a school in need of assistance. Our options were to restructure or fire half our staff. We chose to restructure to become a new tech network school. That gave us the opportunity to go one-to-one Chromebook. And so that is what we are going to talk to you about today.
The purpose, our driving question is, how does technology impact instructional decision making and planning in a project-based learning environment? So that's what we talked about today. These are the devices that all of our students have, 3rd through 6th grade. They have a Lenovo Chromebook. You'll see that there's a case as well. They get a set of earbuds.
And their charger.
Yep.
So the devices are rolled out 3 through 6. We do have laptop carts available for younger students to help get them familiar. So we always have to start with a rollout. If you want to switch for me. Okay, so we start with the basics. You have to start with digital citizenship. We start it every year, no matter if they had the Chromebooks last year or if they're brand new to the Chromebooks. We always start with the basics. We teach them to learn that it is a resource for them to support their education. We have a Chromebook contract that does go home with our students. In order to take it home, the parents have to sign it, and the student has to sign it. And we do a lot of teaching around the fact that this is a tool to help you build yourself as a learner, to help yourself become a lifelong learner. And so we keep these posted in our classroom. We do a lot of open conversation about you are open to now a whole world of digital resources, some good, some bad, and teaching them the responsibility that they have when they take this home. And we always have a rollout plan where we start slow. We introduce it inside the classroom. We take it home 1 day a week. If they all come back, we take it home 2 days a week. And we build up that responsibility because that is their tool that we use all day. It's no different than a textbook. It's no different than their homework. Most of their homework, we tell them, is done digitally. And so we really have to prep them on the front end of what it means to be a good digital citizen.
And not only on the front end, but also just throughout the year. I mean, even just last week, some of my kids were not using it appropriately, and so we, slowed it down a little bit and then gradually released it again with them. So your students are one-to-one. Everyone has a Chromebook and or Google Drive. Now what? That's where we were at the beginning of last year.
And you have to take a minute to just breathe.
Absolutely.
You will get the same question 50 million times. How do I make a new document? What's Google Drive? That one's my favorite.
Yeah.
How do I open my email? Well, and the hard thing with Google is it says compose. English language learners don't know that compose means, hey, let's start a new email or let's make something. So we had to do a lot of slowing down. We assume that they know how to do things. Not always the case. Some kids take off with it really well, and they become our classroom experts. So we have students that all do things very well, but it's each different thing. So if you need help creating a Google slide, you need to go talk to this person. Don't ask me, ask our classroom expert. So we have to do a lot of small group teaching around our 21st century learner standards and what it means to be able to use that tool effectively. And we incorporate a lot of how-to lessons into our readers workshop and writing workshop times.
Especially during those first few weeks of school.
So it is a process. We have to remind ourselves they're 8. They're 8 when they come to us. They're still babies. We need to realize that, yes, we may know how to do it, but they don't.
And we realized that, especially at the beginning of last year. We had all of these grand plans and then realized they're 3rd graders. They've maybe used laptops, but we had to scale it back a lot.
Yes. So one way we do that is routine is key. Each classroom has their own routine and how we roll it out and how we have them use them. We all have different places and how we store them, how and when to charge. We tell them once they go home, that's your homework. It has to come back charged. You don't charge during my time. So they have to charge at recess if they forgot or during their specials time, because it takes time away from like their collaboration when they have to pick up their whole group to go sit next to an outlet. So we talk about how and when to charge, when we use it, when we're not using them, how to even carry it. That's something I failed to teach them the first year, and we had a couple cracked screens, and I'm like, okay, you need to make sure when you clamshell you zip your case too, because that thing's going to slide right out of there and hit the floor.
Well, and that's something else with the routine. She says clamshell, I say screen down. And they know as soon as you say that, they shut their screens
and zip up. We have key vocabulary that we teach them: clamshells, screen down, charging stations, and then that repeat and rehits of digital citizenship is key.
So how does one-to-one affect, and how does it change how I plan or how we plan? You know, as with everything, we still start with the Common Core standards. That's what drives our instruction. You know, the assessment piece, instead of having them do paper pencil, it can be instant. And so that really helps us when we form like small groups. I think especially in math, you know, sometimes we'll have them do a quick Google form, or Kahoot it is something that they use whole class, but it helps guide our instruction so much more effectively than it has in the past.
And it pushes us to make our resources more meaningful and have a greater impact, not only for our team, but as facilitators in general. We have to push ourselves to find things that are not just busy work, but things that are relevant to what we're trying to accomplish. So it also impacts how we implement our lessons. You know, you now have 26 devices plus your computer and your projector in the classroom.
And or iPads sometimes.
And we're like 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 iPad. So we have all these different devices rolling around. How does that impact how I implement my lesson? For math, we've had the opportunity to try flipping our classroom, whereas instead of having them do like the lesson part at home, we provide them time in the classroom to do it, because not all of our students have access to Wi-Fi. And so we have tried flipping the classroom, where we stand up there, we do our quick 5-10 minute mini lesson, and then we have found these videos for everyday math, which is the set of materials that we're currently using that help teach the lesson. And there's one for every single lesson in 3rd grade. I haven't found them for 4th grade yet, but we have found them for 3rd grade. So it just allows for us to create these Google slides, and the kids work through the slides at their own pace while we are workshopping based on gaps they may have had in 2nd grade standards, or pre-teaching or reteaching something we've already covered so far this school year. So it gives us a lot more flexibility, and it has the students take ownership over their learning. And that is what we really strive for in our school, is that they take pride in what they're doing, and they know that this is theirs. We already know how to do that, but they need to know how to do it. And they need to be able to show us they know how to do it in whatever method they see fit. If a kid comes up to me and says, you know, I really don't like this journal page, can I do a Google drawing to show you I know how to multiply and create an array? Sure. Whatever, you know, if you're showing me in a way that's relevant to you, that you know the content, That's what matters. Not that they completed Math Box 4.6 number 2.
And these are just some examples. In the top left-hand corner, we have Google Classroom, which we actually have student teachers right now, and they took the initiative to start using that with our kids, that we will continue to use when we get back into full-time teaching. We're phasing into that. A task list, this was for, with project-based learning, we integrate literacy, writing, science, social studies. And those are just pictures of in our we also have a third teammate, a third grade teacher who's not here today. But anyway, these are just pictures of our kids working. And then as Emily was describing, the Google Slides on the right-hand side.
I am very big on data, as most of us are. Having one-to-one Chromebooks has made processing the data, organizing the data, and getting the data from our students so much
I especially
easier.
like the organization piece.
I am able to do a quick check with Kahoot and look at the report and see who doesn't understand what I taught yesterday, and that's their workshop. And we put again on them, hey, you've seen your Kahoot score in 10 minutes. I am running a workshop on this concept. If you don't think you have a good handle on it, you might want to come to workshop. And remember, if you don't come to workshop and you realize you don't know how to do it, you're going to need to find a friend who can. And so it really allows us to make those instant small groups and to make their learning and their time with us, those 7.5 hours a day with us, the most they can be, so that we can get the most bang for our buck and give them what they really need. So the impact of being able to meet the needs of all of our learners hit far greater than I thought it ever would. I am allowed, I can now make every IEP accommodation in a way that does not stress out myself, the student, or any associates that work with them. My English language learners now have a vast resource to build their background knowledge on things that they may not know in their home language and then again in English. So we are able to use speech to text or text to speech for some of our struggling readers or our English language learners. There's a wider array of break options. Those students who do task break or 2 tasks and then need a break, it's more meaningful to them now because they can pick their break. It's not, oh, go over to your break box and pick out what you need or what you want, when it may not be as desirable. Hey, can I just go play 5 minutes of this game? Is it school appropriate? If their answer is yes, then yes, that can be your 5-minute break. The zoom feature to enlarge text, the ability to identify the different resources in different languages has been very meaningful for a lot of our newcomers. And then the option to individualize their work time. We have found that there were a lot of gaps in math that we didn't realize we had. And so now that we know that we have these gaps, we're able to find resources to help meet those needs and for them to practice those skills.
Mm-hmm. Room design. These are examples of our classrooms. As you can see, our classrooms are not set up in the traditional manner. It really impacts the collaboration piece with technology. And I think coming from before we were one-to-one, we each had 4 student desktops in our room. They had to be in a certain spot because of where they had to be plugged in, where they were connected to the internet. And the kids couldn't collaborate. Now they take their Chromebooks and they can go in any area. A lot of my kids like to sit in the living room. There are just a lot of small areas for groups to break off.
And a lot of our room design is centered around the fact that when we work, we don't always sit at a table. We don't always sit at a desk. When I work at home, I'm working on the floor. I'm working on my couch. And so giving the students that option to choose and giving them a sense of power, that's something they have control over. Whereas when they go home, they don't have control over what time they go to bed or what they're having for dinner. Mm-hmm. It gives them that power to make a choice and realize that that choice has consequences, good or bad. If you are sitting next to your friend and not getting your work done, I'm going to say, oh, I don't think that's a successful spot. Let's try again. So giving them that power to choose
where they learn best
has provided a lot more engagement and better learner outcomes for our school and its setting.
And we played with that even prior to being one-to-one. So how does this impact project and problem-based learning?
It really allows for us to dig deeper. We have really moved away from that mile wide, inch deep concept of we're going to hit it and move on. It allows our students to really dig deeper into their content. They are seeking out even more resources than we have ever found when we're doing this project planning. We are switching to a problem-based math, and as we're working through that, we have to go out and seek a lot of resources. One resource we've found that we absolutely love is Emergent Math. It is a blog created by one of our new tech curriculum coordinators for math. It is by far the most amazing resource if you want to dabble in problem-based math. If you do, he has it mapped out by the standards for every grade level. So you have a year of math problems that are aligned to your core, will teach your core, and it's already organized for you and everything is linked up.
For example, one of the problems was, so we were teaching elapsed time. So how many movies could you see in a day? It's a really hot day outside. I want to go to the movie theater and stay cool for as long as possible. What movies could you see? You had to figure out, okay, it tells you the start time. It doesn't tell you when it ends.
But it gives you the duration.
Yep. And just it had some, some limitations, like they can't see a rated R movie. They can't see, it
Even
had
though
to
it's
be
on the
PG or
board,
G.
you can't go see it. And they're like, well, what if I can watch it at home? No, sorry, you're not 18, you're 8. Sorry. Sorry. What's the difference on that? So it has pushed us as facilitators to make much more relevant connections for our students. It has pushed the students to take ownership and realize that things really do apply to their life. I love when they ask, well, why are we doing this? All right, well, let's walk through this. If you are a teacher and you have 7 hours in a day, you've got to plan that out. And so we really try hard to make every relevant connection that we can for them. We don't want them to think, oh, we're just doing this just because. And I think our problem-based learning has really helped with that. We do a lot around culture and heritage at the beginning of the year because we are so diverse. And what is so unique about our community at Crestview is that a lot of the kids don't realize the differences and realize that outside of Crestview, not every culture gets along. That there are some intense cultural differences that cause great conflict. And they don't know that because all they see is how well 30 different cultures can work together in our block. And so it has been huge to watch the impact of, we do hit some heavy content with that. We talk to them, and one of our opening things for this project is we tell them about Malala Yousafzai and what happened to her because of cultural differences. And so they kind of get fired up of, well, why is that? And what can we do to change that? And how do we function so well where outside of our area they may not? And so really giving them these heavy-hitting, relevant topics to their world is huge with project-based learning. So we're able to seek out resources, and the students even find news articles about her that maybe we haven't presented them. And can we share this with everybody? Absolutely. And so they're building this community not only in our classrooms, but they'll share it with everybody in 3rd grade.
And it's going back to that taking ownership over their learning.
And so currently one of our problems was, well, we all don't have Wi-Fi at home. Where are places where can we get Wi-Fi? And when you drive by Crestview on the weekends, the kids will be huddled around the school building. And you can only go so far, so they're like sitting up against the building.
They've figured out how far they can go.
How far they can go to get the Wi-Fi. And so our next project is they want to build benches and seating areas around the school that reflect our culture. So the benches are going to have symbols that represent the different cultures and really making Crestview a community hub, which is what we really would like to do. Because, even at breakfast, we feed 200 to 300 kids every breakfast, and 40 parents come and eat with them. So it just has become our main focus of our projects to make that a community hub while tying in all of our reading, our writing, our science, our social studies, and our maths. Yeah.
And I guess along with our projects, you know, being more connected, having the one-to-one, we've been able to reach out. You know, we may not be able to go somewhere for a field trip, but we bring experts into the classroom. You know, we went on a virtual field trip last year to the Orphan Train Museum.
Yep, in Kansas.
As part of our historical investigations unit.
Yep. Our project was, you know, how do we preserve our history? And how do we know what's important? And so we reached out to the Orphan Train Museum, and the curator, walked them through every exhibit and talked to them about it and fielded questions as a curator. It was amazing, and we cannot wait to do it again. And, you know, showing the kids that we show their learning on Twitter. You'll walk into our teammate's classroom, and he'll have his Twitter pulled up, and you'll see the kids with the Twitter pulled up, you know, sharing his tweets with their families. And so making that responsible choice of, this is Twitter. Yes, not everything out there is good, but how can we use Twitter to promote our school and to promote our learning? And so they do a really good job. Like, I'll have a kid come up to me, and he'll have his paper up, and he's like, tweet this, Mrs. Lewis. I'm like, all right. And so, like, it just brings in, like, we have our writing standards, but social media has a whole nother context in which we write. So preparing them for social media has really helped with the digital citizenship as well.
And a question we get a lot of times is, okay, you're one-to-one. They're in their Chromebooks all day long.
Where's the collaboration?
I would say the collaboration is so much of a bigger piece now than it ever used to be.
So our teammate, that is his biggest thing when we're talking with people and they ask that question. And so he found this image on Google. And he's like, yeah, I don't think it's the technology that's making us antisocial. We are more connected now than we have ever been. I can connect with another new tech school across the country, or in China, or in Australia, like that, because of social media. And so teaching them how to use it responsibly and showing them how we use it has been key to our collaboration, knowing that I don't know all the answers, and that's okay.
Well, I think the teaching piece, you know, we'd rather they're going to make mistakes, you know, but we'd rather them make them in the safety net of our classrooms than when they get to be teenagers and are out. And I mean, it's just, we'd rather them make the mistakes now and use it as a teaching point.
Right.
I guess, what questions do you have? I know we went through a lot of this pretty quickly. And we're in our second year of being one-to-one, you know, and as third graders, or as teaching third grade, we will always be teaching the kids who are brand new to being one-to-one. The second grade facilitators are really good about utilizing the laptop cart as much as possible, but it's still different when they have their own Chromebooks.
And our laptop cart is not a Chromebook cart. It is a HP cart where it takes, you know, 20 minutes for them to log on if they've never logged on to the computer before. And so even though they've done a really good job of starting Google Drive with them, it looks completely different on a Chromebook than it does on a laptop.
I guess going back to when you were mentioning the routines, and when they forget to charge their Chromebooks, we'll say, go grab a laptop. They learn very quickly that they don't want to wait for the laptop to load up, so they'll come the next day with it being charged.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it definitely has helped with classroom management as well. I know our teammate is very strategic in how he does something. I know he had a student last year, and he shared this with us for the first time this year, who, you know, was not always the best collaborator and liked to kind of get kids off task. And so one day he took his charger, and so the kid would always come back to school and he goes, I didn't charge my Chromebook, I don't know where my charger is. And he'd always have a charger plugged in a wall outlet, and he's like, oh, go use that charger over there. And so it kept him confined to a certain spot where he could still collaborate but was really close to our teammate. And I'm like, that is genius. I never would have thought of doing that. But it did. It contained the situation. It helped with the classroom management and still allowed for him to collaborate in a more appropriate way.
And a lot of the things, you know, that we've tried, it's trial and error. You know,
we fail a lot, and we make
forward.
It known to the kids that we don't know all the answers. We're learning with you, and that's okay. My favorite is when they ask me a question I don't know the answer to, and I'm like, okay, what do we do? I don't know the answer, so I'm not going to answer the question. And they're like, no, you can't do that. I'm like, okay, but you do. So what can we do? What resources are out there? And they're like, well, Google it. I'm like, all right. So it's given them that power to know that they can truly seek out any resource they want. You know, some of the kids will say, I don't really know how to do this, and I've done a really good job of finding some resource videos on YouTube for them. But I'm like, what can you do? They're like, oh, I can get on YouTube, I can search the skill and put 4 kids at the end and see what pops up. I'm like, there you go. And so then they'll share all these resources with me.
They'll come in the morning.
Yeah.
And be like, guess what I learned, or guess what I figured out last night.
Or you can tell when they're really interested in something because you'll get 30 emails when you're at home with, hey, can we share this resource? Can we share this resource? And it just builds that classroom community of we're all learning this together. Yeah.
You had mentioned that you have some ESL, native language resources. Could you share those with us? That would be
We have used NewsELA can translate some of their articles, but the students are also really good about using Google Translate. It's not always perfect, but it gets the job done until we have a better resource. Sometimes when you're on Google, you can click translate this page, and it will translate the page into the language they select. Again, it is not always perfect, but for the first time, we've had an Arabic 3rd grade student and
Non-speaker.
Yep. That throws everything out the window. Their numbers are different. They read the opposite direction we do.
So she and I used Google Translate a lot just to communicate with each other.
Again, may not have been perfect, but it got her what she needed so that she could still be a part of everything that's going on in the classroom. We don't want to seclude them because they can't speak the language. You don't want them just sitting there looking blank, which is really hard sometimes because it takes time to find the resource, but once they figure out how to use Google Translate, it has really helped.
And I think not necessarily like websites or things like that, but the ESL teacher who I work with, she's using the technology with the kids a lot, scaffolding and everything.
All right, any other questions? Yeah.
Hi, just a couple questions for you. One, so I know you guys work as your trio, your team. Do you have other support that really kind of helps you put things together and in your district? Also, when you are creating your like your slides and stuff like that, I know you said that you use your everyday math. Are you using primarily resources from just that everyday math book, or that you're just translating into like a slideshow, or are you reaching out to other resources throughout your different subjects?
So last year when she was starting to do the Google slides, we started with our standards and with the everyday math, the curriculum resources that our district had provided, but we've noticed that there are a lot of gaps, and so we absolutely have reached out and gone to other resources.
So we'll tie in some of those problems from the Emergent Math blog. YouTube, like when you're trying to learn fact shortcuts, they don't want to sit up there and listen to me say anything times 0 is, and they go 0. We find catchy songs on YouTube, and we use a resource called KeepVid. So what you do is you copy your link, put it in KeepVid, hit download, and it saves it to your Google Drive or to your computer. You don't have the ads. There are no ads, and they click the link, and there's the video. And so we do that there's lesson videos out there by Ryan Christensen for 3rd grade, who he walks through the meat of the lesson with the kids. And then there are home link videos for almost every 3rd grade home link, and that's by Jeff Lewis on YouTube. And then we use all of these YouTube resources. I'll say, okay, we're working on multiplication shortcuts, so I'll type in multiplication shortcuts for kids, and we'll find the relevant resources. Sometimes it's a quick, catchy song. Sometimes it's a quick 2-minute lesson. And so that's all part of their task list, or we'll have a resource page. that allows them.
And it's nice because some students need to hear it multiple times, or they're starting to work on something and realize, oh, I need to rewatch that, so they can do it at their own pace. Going back to your first question, we have an instructional coach, who helps not necessarily with the technology piece. I'm one of the tech people in our building. There are 2 of us, plus there are a couple who are on the New Tech Network side of things. So we have resources available, but the 3 of us, we do a lot of it ourselves.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
Have you found any resources that teach keyboarding?
Yes. Typing
ones?
Club and Dance Mat Typing. They love Typing Club because it levels you. And so they're like, I'm on level 81. I'm like, I have no idea what that means, but yay. So we do, Typing Club seems to be the favorite. It saves where they're at, whereas Dance Mat Typing, they sometimes have to remember where they were. So those are the 2 that we use to help.
And then just being one-to-one, they're utilizing the keyboard so much more that they're getting a lot of additional practice. They're listening to the lessons, they're practicing those lessons, and then they're applying it right away, too.
And what I've noticed is I have to remind them a lot to be on home row. I'm like, you're hunting and pecking. No, you got to get back up there. And so that has been a big learning curve for them.
All right, thank you. We have another question back here.
Okay.
My grade level just went from iPads to Chromebooks this year, and so we're struggling finding some of those apps like Show Me and Educreation that we loved on the iPads.
Okay.
So do you guys have top resources that you could find those apps, or could you tell us what your top 3 apps are for the Chromebooks?
We use Google Drawing to replace Educreations. We still have the iPads, so sometimes we still have that option. But Google Draw, or Google Drawings, I can't remember exactly what it's called, is a good place to start. They can also do a lot of that in Google Slides. They can still create what they want.
And we started with that because our district is a Google, everyone has a Google account.
We use a lot of websites as opposed to the Google apps. I have not taken the time to explore the Google apps, probably like I should. But again, we do a lot of the keyboarding apps. The kids love ABCia as a math resource. Math Magician for math facts. Wonderopolis. If you have not ever been on Wonderopolis, you need to take some time and get on there. They have all these wonders that the kids have submitted to this website, and they come up with an article that fits that wonder, and it can be read to the students. It has key vocabulary, and they do wonder word work with them. So then they have to implement that vocabulary in the Wonder Words Challenge. Another great one is thekidssshouldseethis.com is a great resource as well for exploring deeper into their content. We do use YouTube a lot, but we have talked to the kids time and time again, if you're going to use YouTube, you have to put 4 kids at the end of it. We have spent a lot of time just showing them that this is a resource that is going to give you unlimited amounts of information. And how do you use it? So, okay, so when you search YouTube, you type in what you want, and then you say 4 kids, and then most of the time, only kid-appropriate stuff will pop up. And so if they need help with skip counting, they'll type in skip counting 4 kids, and all these videos will pop up.
There's another good quiet tube. You can put a filter on your browser, and then it takes all of the ads and everything out and all the inappropriate content. It only brings up the video that you want, but it's quiet tube.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
but you know, if you're using Chrome, if you're using Firefox, whatever, you have to do it in every browser you're using.
Okay.
So is that something the kids have to have installed on their browser? I think so. Okay.
No, it's just the website.
Okay. It just changes. Very cool.
All right, any other questions?
If ever you do have any questions, in both the beginning and the end of our presentation, we have our Twitter handles and our email addresses. So we would be more than happy to,
All right, let's give a warm round of applause for Emily and Brooke. Thank you.